I've just put up the last part of the wind turbine. It works, it's up.
It's spinning. Deciding where to put your wind turbine is way more difficult than... Jesus, it's so... Decide... I don't know where to... Which the wind turbine one. And it came with the... What am I talking about? Hello! Today I'm going to take you on a tour of our off-grid system. I'm going to be talking about how much electricity it generates, if we're going to add something or change something to it, and at the end of the video I'll be talking about how much it cost us and if it was all worth it. Everything you're about to see we have installed ourselves, and I just want to remind you that we are beginners at pretty much everything we're doing here on this homestead. So that's just to say, if we can do it, so can you. Behind me you can see our two solar panels that are both 200 watts, and they're attached to the house with brackets that can change angles according to the height of the sun during the different seasons. They were rather easy to install after having watched several videos on YouTube and buying the correct material and tools for it. This is our wind turbine, which at very strong winds can have an output of 400 watts. By strong winds I do mean gale force, so upwards from 12 meters per second. We are in a part of the hills where there's a lot of wind, especially since the forest here was taken down. But if you are living somewhere where you don't get such strong winds, then perhaps this isn't for you. Deciding where to put your wind turbine is way more difficult than deciding where to put your solar panels, because you have to adjust for any objects that are surrounding your wind turbine that will cause any turbulence. I've seen a general rule that says that it should be sticking out 9 meters above anything that's within 90 meters of it. So ideally you would put it as far away from anything else as possible, far out into the field away from your house. However, then you're gonna have to deal with much longer cables, which also gets really pricey, and a loss of electricity. And now for my favorite part, the wood stove. This thing heats the entire house. And if you want to see how big the house is, go check out the tour of the house video. It's quite incredible and still surprises me to this day that this thing, with this one little chamber where the wood goes in, heats up the entire house. Not the basement of course, because heat does rise, but yeah, it is impressive. On days where the temperatures drop to around minus 15 degrees Celsius, then we also fire up the other fireplace just on the other side of this wall, just to get the chill out of the house, but it quickly gets too warm, so this one runs the whole day and the other one is just to help to get the chill off. It came with the energy certificate of A. I've never owned anything of an energy certificate A, but I can see why it has it. If I'd have to give it any marks, I would give it an A+. It cost us about 20,000 Swedish kroner. Well worth the price, since not only can we heat the house with it, you can also cook on it, and thus we're also off-grid with cooking. Although in the summer I don't really look forward to standing in front of the heat and cooking on this thing, so hopefully we'll be generating enough electricity by then to just run the electric stove. And this is the other fireplace I was talking about, which came with the house, so kind of for free. We don't spend any money on electricity for heating up the house at the moment. That saves a lot of money up here. Behind me, down by the little river, we have our own well. This is where our water comes from and runs through pipes that are 1.5 meters down in the ground, below frost level. And so far we've never had any problems with water freezing, so that works well. It gets pumped up by the water pump, then it goes into our tank and then goes into the rest of the house. And in the future we'll also have it connected to the barn. We also have our own septic tank, which we have to get emptied on a yearly basis and costs about 2,000 kroner. Now of course that's not ideal and rather pay nothing. However, that's the way it is for now until we find a better solution. In this corner we've got our batteries. We've got two batteries of 12 volts and 260 ampere hours, which means they can charge up to 3 kilowatts each. This is the inverter that the batteries are connected to, and that changes our 12 volt to 230 volt. I think in the US you also have 120 volt, but here in Europe we've only got the one option. It has a running load of 2.5 kilowatts, and at the moment we've got our water pump connected to it, thus having our water off-grid. which is pretty nice. And then right here we've got our solar panels regulator and our wind turbine regulator. So this is the center where everything gets connected to. Cables come from outside from the wind turbine, the solar panels, and the batteries downstairs. How much electricity do we get? And is it sufficient? In the summer, our solar panels are enough to keep the lights on, keep the water pump running, have the internet box on and our computer, and we can even have the fridge connected as well, but then after a few cloudy days that could drain the batteries. In the dark winter months we save the electricity that the wind turbine generates for the water pump, and in case we do have a power outage we can always connect anything that needs to be connected temporarily. This summer will actually be the first summer that we'll have the solar panels and the wind turbine running at the same time. So we're really going to see at the end of this year how well they do together. But all this is of course nowhere near enough. So we want to make some changes. And we would start with changing from 12 volt to 48 volt. Because from what we've seen online is that 12 volt is really for your RVs, your caravans and perhaps on a boat. But for a larger house, a family house that we are living in now, it's just best that you upgrade to a 48 volt system. Next we would try and fill the roof with 300 watt solar panels, and we would also add 20 kilowatts of batteries. However, batteries are crazy expensive, so that might not all happen at the same time. The wind turbine that we have now is 12 volts, so we would have to change that. And there are 600 watt 48 volt wind turbine heads. Luckily enough, they go onto the same mast that we already have there, so all we need to replace are the actual wind turbine heads. Besides all that, we'd also get a generator so that we have that base load in case of there being no sun and no wind. Then there are several other technologies that we are interested in, such as the wood gasifier, which I have spoken about in a previous video. This would actually generate electricity for us. It's something that you can burn wood in, it turns it into gas, which you can then connect to your generator and electrify the house or the entire homestead. The next question is, are we off grid? We are off grid for life essentials. So the water pump is running on the batteries. We can cook on our wood stove, which also provides us with heat. And so really all the most basic important things for life and survival, that is all off grid. Okay, let's talk money. How much did it all cost? Well, we've got the batteries and the wind turbine and the solar panels as a package deal, which if you would buy it now would cost you 44,000 Swedish kroner. Then we had to pay for the extra cable running from the wind turbine all the way down into the house, which are very pricey cables, and we bought about 50 meters of it. That cost us 4,000 Swedish kroner. Then, as you saw at the beginning of the video, we had a big struggle with trying to install our wind turbine. For one time, renting out the skylift cost us 1,775 Swedish kroner. In total, we paid 51,550 Swedish kroner. Okay, now for the really important question. Was it worth it? Well, let's do a calculation. The solar panels are not too expensive. These ones that we got cost 1,890 kroner per piece. So at today's energy prices, which is 75 euro, which basically translates to as 75 Swedish kroner cents, you would get your money back after producing 2,520 kilowatts, which would take you 12,600 hours at full sun, which is 525 days, which is about a year and a half. Now, as we all know, the sun doesn't shine at night. And up here you can forget about the months from November to February, when there's hardly any sun or no sun at all. So that would leave us only 210 working days of the year. Now, let's say that the sun shines on average 10 hours a day. That would mean that you have 2,100 hours in a year, which would produce 420 kilowatts. That means that you would get your money back after 6 years and 6 years of amazing summers. Okay, but let's be realistic here. Our solar regulator does show the total of how much electricity our solar panels generated, and up until now that's been 230 kilowatts, and that's been over the span of a year, and that's with 2 solar panels. So yeah, perhaps it will take us maybe a bit more than 15 years. Of course, that would be much more if they were on the roof, but it wouldn't be a life-changing event. The wind turbine cost us 23,000 Swedish kroner, And at today's energy prices, that would mean we have to produce 30,666 kilowatts to get our money back. If we take an extreme example and say that the winds blow at over 12.5 meters per second all the time up here, so gale force, that would mean that the wind turbine would be generating 400 watts an hour. At that rate, it would take us 76,665 hours to produce the kilowatts we need. That translates into 3,194 days or 8.75 years of pure mental weather. As you can see in our second vlog, it took us quite an effort to get that thing up there. And we still have no idea what the future maintenance costs really are going to be. All in all, I could see us pay off the solar panels in about 15 years time, once they are installed up on the roof. Which I think it's worth it for the price and the off-grid factor. And it was also very easy to install, which is a nice bonus. Regarding the wind turbine, I think it's definitely not worth it if you're doing it to save money. But for the off-grid factor, it is a really nice addition to your off-grid system, especially during the winter months when there's next to no sun. I hope you enjoyed the tour. Please leave us a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.